On paper, the Audi A5 is the market's most complete compact executive coupe, more than ever in the improved version we're looking at here. Performance statistics, running costs, residual values, practicality, all of these things have been ruthlessly checked to improve upon standards set by rivals from Mercedes and BMW. It's a clinical approach, and not surprisingly, it's produced a car that's very difficult to fault. Efficiency. It's a very Germanic trait, and of all the Teutonic brands, Audi epitomises it best. Not only in its compact hatches and business-bound saloons, which have to be affordable to run, but also in sportier, more impulse purchase models. For goodness sake, they've even made a diesel version of their R8 supercar. The improved A5 Coupe we're looking at here won't raise quite as many eyebrows as that, but it still claims to be a shockingly efficient way to have an awful lot of driving enjoyment. This is the improved, mildly facelifted version that was launched at the end of 2011, 4 years after this model first hit the UK market. Now visually, the changes on offer may be slight, but under the bonnet they could hardly be more far-reaching, with all the engines available being either completely new or substantially revised. And the result is, wherever you look across the range, running costs are substantially reduced, often despite substantial hikes in power. So, an A5 makes sense, but then that's not usually the overriding reason for buying a coupe of this kind. Can it reward as much at the wheel as it does on the balance sheet? That's something that'll be essential if this car is to continue to be able to face down its arch rivals, coupe versions of BMW's 3 Series and the Mercedes C-Class. Let's find out. Between 2005 and 2007, Audi engineers revolutionised the way that many experts thought about the driving dynamics of this brand. In that period, they launched 3 products, and it's these 3 that were down to that change of perception: the R8 supercar, the RS4 super saloon, and perhaps most significantly, this model, the A5 Coupe. Now, this was a car that didn't grab the headlines, but it should have done. This, after all, was the first mainstream design for which the Ingolstadt brand had set out to seriously develop a driver-orientated chassis, an essential ingredient if this car was really serious about taking on the class-leading BMW 3 Series Coupe. Now, already in this respect, this A5 was starting out at a bit of a disadvantage. Its front-driven layout would never reward an enthusiast in quite the same way as a rear-driven BMW. But Audi's engineers were convinced that it could be made to feel almost as good. To prove the point, they took a completely clean sheet approach, developing a new MDS chassis that took the engine from its usual position just in front of the front axle and placed it just behind it. Now, since an engine is the heaviest part of any car, that change was pretty significant, distributing this Audi's mass more uniformly across both axles. That improved handling response, while the longer wheelbase necessary to facilitate the change also improved ride quality. Of course, whatever you do, you can't change the laws of physics, and a BMW 3 Series will always feel slightly more responsive than this Audi if you're out to rival Lewis Hamilton on your favourite back road. But the suppler ride that you get with this Audi, provided you don't burden it with huge wheels and stiff suspension, will be preferable to many. And you can improve it further if you opt for the chassis with damper control setup, enabling you to match the ride to the mood that you're in and the road that you're on. Audi fans will also point out that this car, alone in its class, offers the option of quattro four-wheel drive, tempting indeed in our wintry climate. Now, normally this system pushes most of the engine's power towards the rear, but if necessary can also redistribute torque towards the front wheels at lightning speed to suit the conditions that you're driving in. Go for the sport differential that's optional on top 3-litre models like this one, and torque can even be distributed from side to side at the rear, firing you from corner to corner. It's all technology designed to be convincing to potential 3 Series Coupe buyers, though personally I wouldn't get too carried away with the BMW comparisons. The more relaxed, luxurious feel of a Mercedes C-Class Coupe is perhaps closer to the kind of feel of this Audi, and it's certainly with one eye on that competitor that Audi has tweaked the road-going experience on offer in this improved A5. The major change has been the addition of a new electromechanical power steering system supposed to improve feedback, though that still isn't this car's strongest suit. You can improve it by paying extra for a dynamic steering system, but it might be simpler just to opt for the Audi Drive Select system that is able to tweak steering feel along with engine management response, auto gearbox response, even the air conditioning, in line with your choice between comfort, auto, dynamic and even efficiency modes. Under the bonnet, if you're an enthusiastic driver, less is probably more. With less weight to carry around, lower order 2-wheel drive petrol and diesel variants feel more agile and more responsive than their pokier 3-litre stablemates. I also prefer the 6-speed manual transmission to the auto-only setup that you're limited to on pricier models. In the TFSI petrol lineup, even the entry-level 170 PS 1.8-litre variant manages rest to 60 in 7.9 seconds on the way to a top speed of 143 miles an hour. Next up is the 2-litre TFSI model with 211 PS. That's the unit you get in the venerable Golf GTI. And you've got the choice at this level of either 2-wheel drive or Quattro 4-wheel drive. For me, an A5 2-litre TFSI, able to get from rest to 60 in just 6.9 seconds on the way to a top speed of 149 miles an hour, is pretty much the perfect package. The diesel variants are relatively quick as well. Both the 163 PS and the 177 PS 2-litre TDI models are able to get from rest to 60 in around 8 seconds on the way to a top speed of 140 miles an hour. And if you go for the 177 PS variant, you've got the choice of Quattro 4-wheel drive as well. If all that's not enough and you really do want an A5 with a bit more straight line poke, then you'll be pleased to know that the higher end petrol range is a lot more competitive these days. Previously, buyers in this part of the A5 lineup had the unappetizing choice between an aging 3.2 litre V6 and the heavy, thirsty 4.2 litre V8 found in the S5 model. Now, both engines have been replaced by a single 3-litre TFSI supercharged unit borrowed from the larger A6, and it's available in 2 states of tune, either with 272 PS or 333 PS in the S5 model. If you're looking at a 3-litre diesel, there's also a 2-way choice, either a 204 PS 2-wheel drive variant with an 8-speed Multitronic automatic transmission, or the version that I'm trying here, the top 245 PS 3-litre TDI Quattro that comes with a 7-speed S-tronic automatic transmission. Now this car really is very quick indeed, getting from rest to 60 in just 5.8 seconds on the way to an artificially limited top speed of 155 miles an hour. Now, you have to be very familiar indeed with the looks of an A5 Coupe to notice the differences made to this revised model. Essentially, the changes have been all about bringing the styling into line with Audi's latest design language, which has meant a set of wedgy A6 style headlamps that on most UK models will be accompanied by the LED strip daytime running lights that are built into the headlamp unit on S-Line and top of the range models like this one. There's also a cleaner single frame front grille and tweaks to the bumper and the bonnet. The more angular tail lights have been restyled too and use brighter LED technology. But this is detail stuff. The overall aesthetic look and feel of this car hasn't changed. The interesting mixture of straight lines, sweeping curves and convex surfaces gelling into a very good looking shape indeed. It's one that looks even better in the metal. The wavy belt line that stretches from the headlamps back to the tail lights remaining the car's most distinctive feature. It's a practical shape too, a proper four-seater with wide doors that make it easy to get in and out. Once installed in the rear, you'll find more room than in equivalent BMW 3 Series and Mercedes C-Class Coupe rivals, though the sloping roof means that those over 6 foot will want to bargain for a place up front. The 455 litre luggage bay is also the biggest in the class, though the boot aperture could be wider. You've got these useful hooks, plus an optional elasticated net to keep your eggs from mixing with your iron brew, and also a side compartment with a 12-volt power socket. If you need more space, then pulling forward these levers releases up to 829 litres of total fresh air. And behind the wheel, well, it's as beautifully finished as ever, tailored like a sleek fitting suit, everything being clear and elegant. With this improved model, there are revised steering wheel designs, beefier column stalks, clearer instrumentation, smart chromed elements, revised buttons, smarter upholstery and classy trim inlays. The optional MMI infotainment system is now easier to use too, with fewer buttons and more logical menus. You can even put in a 7-digit postcode into the sat-nav at last. Through it you can access all manner of online options, everything from Google Earth mapping to in-car internet access. Now here we're chiefly concerned with mainstream versions of the A5 Coupe. But the A5 range also includes a 5-door Sportback body shape for a £1,000 model for model saving, or a pretty cabriolet for a £3,000 model for model premium. The Coupe lineup continues to occupy the £27,000 to £40,000 bracket, and if you're looking at any petrol variant within that, you'll need another £2,000 to £3,000 to fund its diesel equivalent. Now, if on 2-litre petrol or diesel models you want the reassurance of the Quattro 4-wheel drive system that's standard on top 3-litre petrol and diesels, then you'll need to budget a little more. On lower order A5 coupes, you'll need to find another £1,500 or so if you want automatic transmission. It'll be an 8-speed Multitronic system if you're going for a front-wheel drive variant, or a 7-speed dual-clutch S-tronic gearbox if you're opting for a Quattro, like the one I have here. As for how overall A5 Coupe pricing compares directly with rivals, well, there are really only 2 competitors that directly compete with this car, and both have premium German badges, coupe versions of the Mercedes C-Class and the BMW 3 Series. Now, lower order versions of the C-Class look much more expensive than this Audi, but that's only because they come only in sporty AMG trim. That leaves BMW's 320i and 320d coupe models to compete directly on price with this A5. And they're competing with an A5 1.8 TFSI petrol or an A5 2-litre TDI. In both cases, this Audi is able to undercut the BMW equivalent by about £2,000. Opt for your A5 with a 2-litre petrol engine and the price advantage it enjoys over its rivals narrows, while with a 3-litre TFSI petrol unit under the bonnet, it's actually a bit more expensive than a comparable BMW 330i or a Mercedes C350 coupe. But that's only because, unlike those rivals, an Audi A5 Coupe 3-litre TFSI enjoys the benefit of Quattro 4-wheel drive. Now, the same thing explains the £2,000 premium I'd have to pay to own this 3-litre TDI Quattro model over a comparable BMW 330d coupe. All of the A5's engines are of the torquey turbocharged direct injection variety, and whichever one you choose, 1.8, 2 litre or 3 litre TFSI petrols, or either of the 2 litre or 3 litre TDIs, you should find your car to be decently equipped. It's a bit surprising that entry-level variants do without Bluetooth phone compatibility, but otherwise all the features you'd expect are in evidence across the range. Things like 17-inch alloy wheels, front fog lights, an 8-speaker MP3 compatible CD stereo with AUX in-point and SD card reader, a leather-covered steering wheel, a Thatcher 1 category alarm, and an automatic opening boot. Personally, I'd avoid the S-Line trim level with its stiffened suspension that spoils this car's supple ride. It's one of its nicest features, but that's up to you. In my view, the S-Line Premium might be better spent on high-tech gadgetry. The Parking System Plus setup, for example, which can guide you into the tightest space with the aid of a colour reverse parking camera. Or the optional Xenon Plus headlamps, which can be further refined by an adaptive lighting system featuring dynamic cornering and static turning lamps. If you also fit the high beam assist system, they can even dip themselves for you at night. You might also want to consider the premium MMI Navigation Plus system, which features a 60 gigabyte hard drive, a DVD player, and a larger 7-inch colour monitor with 3D navigation. If this were my car, I'd also want to look at the premium Bang & Olufsen surround sound system. It's a 14-speaker, 505 watt system. Oh, and there are 3 types of seats to look at as well, including a comfort option with climate control. A fascinating option across the board is a high-specification Audi Connect Bluetooth online car phone. Now, this introduces a voice-activated, Google-powered point-of-interest search system, a navigation setup using Google Images, and a WLAN, that's a wireless local area network hotspot to your A5, enabling occupants to wirelessly connect computers and phones to the internet. The only caveat is that you might have to watch your data bill, especially when travelling overseas. Safety provision runs to all the expected airbags, anti-whiplash head restraints, Isofix child seat fastenings, and electronic driving aids for braking, traction and stability control. One nice feature that's standard across the range now is a brake recommendation system that monitors your driving reactions and will prompt you, if necessary, to stop for a restorative coffee. Optional features include Audi side assist to stop you dangerously pulling out to overtake another car, and also Audi active lane assist to stop dozy drivers from veering out of their lanes on the motorway. There's also an ACC adaptive cruise control system that can keep you a safe distance behind the car in front on the highway, can warn you and prepare the car if you're about to have a rear-end collision, and can even automatically stop the car completely at speeds of under 18 miles an hour. Now, the step forward that this revised A5 Coupe has made over the original is most obvious here. Let me give you an example. When the range was first announced in 2007, it included a 190 PS 2.7 litre 6-cylinder diesel variant that put out 157 grams per kilometre of CO2 and managed 44.1 miles per gallon on the combined cycle. Now compare that to the engine that has replaced that unit in this revised range, the 204 PS 3 litre TDI. It manages to put out 14 brake horsepower more, yet at the same time emits 23% less CO2 and goes 30% further on every gallon of fuel. Now, all of this is possible thanks to a whole range of high efficiency modifications that the Audi engineers have used. Everything from a more efficient electromechanical power steering setup across the range to an energy recuperation system, and of course a start-stop engine system that cuts the power plant when you don't need it, when you're stuck in urban traffic or when you're waiting at the lights. If you pay extra for the Audi Drive Select setup, there's also an efficiency mode that'll focus all of the car's systems on driving eco-consciously. Now, if you really want to maximise the potential for low running costs in your A5 Coupe, your dealer is likely to point you towards the entry-level diesel variant, the 163 PS 2-litre TDI-E. Now, this model is able to record 64.2 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and put out just 115 grams per kilometre of CO2. And that's a useful improvement on the figures recorded by the standard 177 PS 2-litre TDI. That manages 60.1 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and 120 grams per kilometre of CO2. Now, you'll need the standard 177 PS version though if you want the option of Quattro 4-wheel drive. But if you do choose that, then bear in mind that your running costs are going to take a bit of a hit. The combined cycle fuel figure falls to 55.4 and the CO2 return deteriorates to 134 grams per kilometre. That's actually worse than you can expect from the 204 PS 2-wheel drive version of the 3-litre TDI diesel, which rather creditably manages 57.6 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and 129 grams per kilometre of CO2. The top 245 PS 3-litre TDI Quattro A5 Coupe that I'm driving here manages 49.6 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and 149 grams per kilometre of CO2. And to put that into perspective, it means that this particular top-line variant will go nearly 12 more miles on every gallon than a comparable BMW 325D Coupe Auto. Those wanting even better fuel returns from the more powerful TDI engines in the range can talk to their local Audi centre about the Euro 6 compatible clean diesel technology also developed for this car. Sorry to keep at you with the figures, but I need to complete the picture for those considering a petrol-powered A5 Coupe. The entry-level 170 PS 1.8 TFSI variant manages 49.6 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle, which means it'll go around 7 miles further on every gallon than a comparable BMW 320i Coupe. The CO2 return of 134 grams per kilometre is about 20 grams per kilometre better than the Beamer as well. Even so, I'd still be tempted to stretch up a little further to the 211 PS 2-litre TFSI, which, despite its extra 41 PS, isn't really very far behind the entry-level variant on the balance sheet. It manages 47.1 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and puts out 140 grams per kilometre of CO2. And those are returns that will take a hit of about 10% if you order your 2-litre TFSI with Quattro 4-wheel drive. All these petrol models enjoy useful running cost advantages over their Mercedes and BMW equivalents. The exception, though, is the pokey 272 PS 3-litre TFSI variant that can only manage 34.9 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and 190 grams per kilometre of CO2. And that's some way behind obvious rivals. More work needs to be done here. S5 model customers will also be on friendly terms with the staff at their local filling station, but at least they'll appreciate the 20% improvement that the 333 PS version of this 3-litre TFSI engine offers over the thirsty old 4.2-litre V8 that was previously fitted to that model. Overall, though, the efficiency savings across the A5 Coupe range are more than impressive, and they'll have an impressive effect on your benefit-in-kind taxation bill. Take the entry-level 170 PS 1.8 TFSI petrol variant. It'll save you about £500 a year in tax over an equivalent BMW 320i Coupe. At the other end of the scale, the A5 Coupe 3-litre TDI with 204 PS and the 8-speed Multitronic automatic transmission, that car will save you about £1,500 a year over an equivalent BMW 325D Coupe. This kind of showing across the range is probably more than anything else the reason why Audi is now Europe's best-selling premium brand. What else might you need to know? Well, if there's one thing we can take as read with Audi coupes, it's strong residual value. Expect this to be as good, if not better, than rival C-Class coupe or BMW 3 Series coupe models. Insurance groupings range between 27 and 35 on the 1 to 50 grouping scale. Now, the A5 may not be the sportiest or the most prestigiously badged compact executive sports coupe you can buy, but the sales figures suggest that it's the one that most customers in this segment would rather have. And that was the case even before the far-reaching changes made to the model we've been looking at here. So, were they really needed? Well, Audi is a brand with little time for such questions. The proof in the product is that Vorsprung durch Technik is more than just a marketing slogan, a passion for perfection, which means that the company's quest for better, more efficient products never stops. And this is certainly one of those. In terms of driving satisfaction, it's as close to the class-leading rear-wheel drive BMW 3 Series coupe as any front-driven rival is ever likely to get. And in every other respect, quality, practicality, value and running costs, this A5 is unequalled in its market. Some may find in Audi's ruthless pursuit of excellence a product that can be rather soulless. But many more will see this car as being everything that a desirable sports coupe should be. Very smart, very cool, and very Audi.